Last night,
1999. But if they're a wrestling legend and they've been retired and been off TV for a number of years, then it's likely they will incorporate a 10-bell salute with the entire roster on the top of the stage to pay their respects. However, there have been times where the WWE failed to acknowledge a wrestler's passing on television. Why they failed to do this has left WWE fans puzzled and disappointed for years, as they feel that every wrestler who competed in the WWE should deserve at least some acknowledgement for their hard work, but which were ignored. Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 12 wrestler deaths shunned by WWE. Number 12. Dino Bravo. Dino Bravo had a WWE run between 1986 to 92, and although he never broke out into the top of the card, he was one of the strongest wrestlers to ever step foot in the ring. Bravo's passing was one of the most bizarre to happen in the world of wrestling, as he was shot 17 times whilst watching a hockey game. Why did this happen? Well, many believe it had something to do with his relation by marriage to Montreal mobster Vic Catroni, and due to the nature of his passing, WWE failed to acknowledge it. Number 11. Ludovic Borger. For those not familiar with Ludovic Borger, he had a brief run in the WWF during the New Generation era, and his biggest achievement was actually breaking the undefeated streak of Tatanka. However, after suffering an ankle injury in '94, Borger opted to quit wrestling and started a career in MMA. Unfortunately, in 2010, Borger took his own life. Now, there was no mention whatsoever by WWE of his passing, which was sad to see as Borger had a difficult time after his WWE departure. Number 10. Jack Tunney. Jack Tunney was a pivotal part of the WWE programming between '84 and '95, as he would act as the on-screen president for the WWF and be the central authority figure on WWE television. Now, this was a time before the WWE fans knew that Vince McMahon was actually the chairman and was running the entire show. But Tunney was believable in his role, and to maintain this position for over a decade was quite an achievement. Tunney would later be released from the company, leaving on bad terms as he had fallen out with upper WWE management, including Vince McMahon. Sadly, in 2004, he passed away after suffering a heart attack at 69 years old. WWE would never acknowledge his passing, and it was reported that no personnel attended his funeral. Number 9. Chris Kanyon. Chris Kanyon had a moderately successful WCW run, but fans felt he had a lot more potential as his charisma was certainly there, and when WWE purchased WCW in 2001, fans felt that Kanyon might finally get a chance to shine. But sadly, it wasn't to be. Kanyon was barely used as a mixture of injuries and no concrete plans for the former US champion led to his release in 2004. In 2010 though, sadly, Kanyon would take his own life and pass away at the age of 40. WWE failed to mention Kanyon's passing on television, and the best they did was to release a brief statement on WWE.com. Number 8. Crash Holly. Crash Holly was one of the most entertaining wrestlers of the Attitude Era. His run in the hardcore division was some of the best comedic segments they have ever produced, and Holly actually won the hardcore title 22 times. Unfortunately, after the Attitude Era ended and WWE abolished the title, Holly didn't really have any concrete plans in the company, which would ultimately lead to his release in summer of 2003. Holly would then unfortunately pass away in November of that same year, as he had suffered an overdose at the house of his good friend Stevie Richards. He was only 32 years old. WWE would never acknowledge Holly's passing. However, in 2005, he was included in a tribute video at the ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view, which was at least some sign of respect and condolence. However, he deserved much more. Number 7. Viscera. WWE's lack of acknowledgement for Viscera's passing actually led to a lot of backlash online. Now, Viscera had a lengthy run in the WWE as he portrayed a character named Mabel in the mid-90s before he was repackaged as Viscera and would be a key part of The Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness stable. Towards the end of the Ruthless Aggression era, he would once again be repackaged, but this time he would be known as Big Daddy V. Viscera would pass away in 2014 from a heart attack, which left a lot of fans and fellow wrestlers deeply saddened. WWE failed to acknowledge his passing on Raw, which left a lot of fans very disappointed. However, they would finally release a brief tribute the following week, and fans weren't sure if this was released due to fan pressure or WWE actually already had the particular tribute planned. Number 6. Lance Cade. Lance Cade had all the tools to be a top star in the WWE. Following a successful tag team run alongside Trevor Murdoch, Cade would form an alliance with Chris Jericho. This alliance would be a central part of the legendary feud in 2008 between Jericho and Shawn Michaels, and fans believed that they were planning on making Cade their next big star. Unfortunately, this wasn't to be, as Cade would be released the same year after he had a seizure on a plane, thanks in part to his abuse of pills. Just 2 years later, he would pass away from an overdose at just 29 years old. WWE failed to mention Cade's passing, as it appeared to be an unwritten rule at the time that if a wrestler passed away from a drug-related death, then it would not be mentioned in any capacity on WWE programming. Obviously, this move received a lot of pushback and criticism from a lot of fans, and it took WWE a number of years to see how unmoral this was. Number 5. Hercules. Now, Hercules was most well known in the 80s for having matches with the likes of Hulk Hogan and Ted DiBiase before he formed a memorable tag team with Paul Roma known as Power and Glory. Hercules would eventually retire in 1999 as he wanted to spend more time with his family. Unfortunately, 6 years after his retirement, he would pass away at his home with heart disease being the official cause. WWE failed to acknowledge his passing, and he's never been mentioned on TV since his time with the company. Number 4. Test. Test without a doubt should have been a huge star in WWE. Debuting in '98, Test would eventually join Vince McMahon's corporation stable before he would begin an on-air romantic storyline with Stephanie McMahon. Over the next few years, he would have a decent run in the mid-card and would even win the Intercontinental title, but sadly, he would never ascend to the top of the card. In 2009, 4 days before his 34th birthday, Test would pass away from an accidental overdose. It would later be revealed by Dr. Bennett and Balu that Test suffered from CTE, and he revealed that the CTE seriously impacted Test's behavior and mental state. WWE would never mention his passing, a move that left fans extremely disappointed. Test was a key part of the Attitude Era, and fans had fond memories of his work, so to not see him get a tribute he deserved was seen as distasteful on the part of WWE. Number 3. Sha Oare. Sha Oare was a big part in the final few months of WCW programming. O'Hare made up one half of the Natural Born Thrillers tag team alongside Chuck Palumbo, and fans believed that the two were going to be the future of WCW. However, when the purchase happened in 2001, his future was up in the air. The duo would join WWE and make their debuts in summer 2001, but it wasn't long before O'Hare was sent to OVW for more development. Fast forward to 2003, and they planned on having O'Hare debut on the SmackDown brand with a brand new Devil's Advocate gimmick, and he would even have the legendary Roddy Piper by his side. Although the gimmick had a lot of potential, and though it was clear that O'Hare had improved his ring skills, he would be released the following year. O'Hare would battle depression and alcoholism in the years to come following his release, and he would take his life in 2014, passing away at just the age of 43. The passing of O'Hare would never be mentioned on television, but they did, however, release a brief statement on WWE.com. Number 2. Dink the Clown, Matt Osborne. Matt Osborne was well known for portraying the original Dink the Clown. The original Dink was a villainous, borderline evil clown who often played tricks on his opponents. In 1993, however, Osborne would be released from the WWE after he was fired for repeatedly smoking drugs in the hallway of a hotel that WWE talent was staying at. The Dink character would then be taken over by Ray Apollo, but Osborne would get a chance to reprise the role for the 15th anniversary of Raw in 2007 during a brief appearance. Unfortunately, in 2013, Osborne passed away due to an overdose. His family would shortly file a lawsuit against the WWE, who stated that the blows to Osborne's head throughout his WWE run ultimately contributed to his early passing. And number 1. Umaga. Umaga made his WWE debut in 2002 and would portray the character known as Jamal and would be a part of Eric Bischoff's 3-minute warning stable. The stable was short-lived, and he would later be repackaged as Umaga, a character he would find great success with. Umaga would go on to have memorable feuds with the likes of John Cena, Bobby Lashley,
what the hell is this? Oh my God!
Triple H, and Jeff Hardy, with some fans saying that he's one of the greatest superstars to never win the WWE title. But sadly, in 2009, Umaga would be released from his contract after failing WWE's wellness policy. Just a few months after his release, Umaga would pass away after a various mix of pills was found in his body. Umaga was just 36 years old. WWE would fail to acknowledge Umaga's passing on television. However, according to WWE legend Chris Jericho, Vince McMahon was extremely upset in relation to his passing. Jericho would state during an episode of Talk is Jericho that, "I remember how legit sad Vince was about it, because at the time I think they had let Umaga go because he wouldn't go to rehab, and I remember Vince really saying, like, I tried. I did not want this to happen. I couldn't do anything. Like, if you're not going to do it on your own, there's nothing we can do." And he was like legit torn up about it, because I think Eki in McMahon's mind had so much more he could have done if he hadn't fallen into those traps that happened to so many of the brothers over the years.